5. Hidden dangers of traveling after 70. That every senior must know before their next trip. Have you ever found yourself sitting in a foreign hospital room, thousands of miles from home, wondering if you'll make it back to see your grandchildren again? I have. And that terrifying moment changed everything about how I approached travel in my golden years. Good day, I'm Dr. Bob. At 78 years old, I've visited 43 countries across 6 continents. But 3 years ago, what should have been a dream vacation to the Greek islands turned into a nightmare when I collapsed in my hotel room from severe dehydration and an irregular heartbeat. As I lay in that unfamiliar hospital bed, with doctors speaking a language I couldn't understand, I realized something profound. Traveling after 70 isn't just a slightly modified version of traveling at 50. It's an entirely different experience with hidden dangers that no one had ever warned me about. Before I share these critical insights that could literally save your life, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Every week I share hard-earned wisdom for thriving in our senior years. Wisdom I've gathered not just from my medical practice, but from my own journey navigating the challenges of aging. What I'm about to share with you today isn't meant to scare you away from traveling. Far from it. Travel remains one of life's greatest joys and privileges. But the truth is, there are 5 critical dangers that most senior travelers never consider until it's too late. Number 4, especially, catches nearly everyone off guard. And it's the one that could leave you stranded far from home. 1. Increased health risks and medical emergencies. Margaret and John had been planning their African safari for decades. At 74 and 76, they finally had the time and resources to make their dream come true. Their doctors gave them routine clearance, they packed their medications, and they set off for the adventure of a lifetime. 3 days into their trip, John developed what seemed like a simple chest cold. Within 24 hours, it had progressed to pneumonia. The nearest hospital was 4 hours away by rough road. By the time they arrived, John was in respiratory distress. "We never imagined a simple cold could turn so dangerous so quickly," Margaret told me later. "At home, we would have just rested and taken over-the-counter medicine. But at our age, in that climate, with the stress of travel, everything escalated faster than we could believe." What Margaret and John didn't realize is that after 70, our bodies respond differently to illness and stress. Our immune systems weaken, making us more vulnerable to infections. Existing conditions like heart disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes can destabilize rapidly when we're far from our routine care. But here's what's even more concerning. Many seniors assume their regular health insurance will cover emergencies abroad. John and Margaret discovered the devastating truth when they received a $32,000 bill that Medicare wouldn't touch. Their supplemental insurance covered only a fraction of the cost. If you're planning to travel after 70, here's what you must do. Schedule a pre-travel consultation with your doctor at least 6 weeks before departure. Obtain comprehensive travel medical insurance that specifically covers seniors and pre-existing conditions. Research the quality and accessibility of healthcare at your destination. Carry a detailed medical history, medication list, and doctor contacts with you at all times. Consider destinations with high-quality medical care, especially for longer trips. Remember, the further you travel from advanced healthcare systems, the greater your risk. This doesn't mean you can't visit exotic locations, but it does mean you need more careful planning and insurance coverage. 2. Greater exposure to infections and contaminants. My dear friend Eleanor was a healthy, active 73-year-old when she joined a river cruise through Southeast Asia. She was careful about what she ate, always used bottled water, and followed all the standard travel advice. 2 days after visiting a local market in Vietnam, she developed severe gastrointestinal symptoms. What would have been an unpleasant but manageable illness for a younger traveler turned into dangerous dehydration and electrolyte imbalance for Eleanor. She spent 5 days in a local hospital and missed half her cruise. "The doctor told me that my age made me more susceptible," Eleanor shared. "Apparently, our stomach acid production decreases as we age, which is one of our first lines of defense against foodborne pathogens. No one had ever told me that before." What Eleanor experienced reflects a harsh reality. After 70, our bodies have fewer reserves to fight off infections. Our immune response is slower and less robust. Respiratory infections, gastrointestinal illnesses, and even skin infections can quickly become serious. The risks aren't limited to exotic destinations either. A cruise ship, regardless of how luxury it may be, puts you in close quarters with thousands of people and their germs. Aircraft cabins recirculate air and can be breeding grounds for respiratory infections. To protect yourself, consider scheduling necessary vaccines like pneumonia, shingles, and an updated Tdap, regardless of your destination. Pack alcohol-based hand sanitizer and use it religiously. In areas with questionable water quality, remember the saying, boil it, cook it, peel it, or forget it. Consider wearing a mask in crowded, enclosed spaces like airplanes and buses. Pack probiotics specifically formulated for travelers. Avoid buffets where food may sit out for extended periods. Most importantly, don't try to power through the early signs of illness when traveling. What starts as a minor infection can quickly escalate for seniors. Seeking medical attention promptly can mean the difference between a minor interruption to your trip and a life-threatening emergency. 3. Travel fatigue and recovery challenges. When I was 55, I could fly across the Pacific, spend a day exploring, and be ready for more adventures the next morning. At 78, I've learned, sometimes the hard way, that my recovery time is dramatically different. Take William's story as a cautionary tale. At 72, this retired professor embarked on a 2-week tour of European capitals. The itinerary was ambitious, a different city every 2 days, with walking tours, museum visits, and cultural experiences packed into each day. By day 5, William was exhausted beyond anything he'd experienced before. His legs ached constantly, he couldn't focus on the tour guide's information, and he began to feel disoriented in crowded spaces. By day 8, his blood pressure had spiked to dangerous levels, and he was forced to abandon the tour and fly home. I kept thinking I just needed to push through, that I was being weak, William told me. I didn't realize I was putting myself at serious risk. My body was sending alarm signals that I completely ignored. What William experienced wasn't weakness. It was his body responding normally to the extraordinary demands of travel at an advanced age. After 70, we experience slower recovery from physical exertion, greater susceptibility to jet lag and disrupted sleep patterns, reduced capacity to regulate body temperature, decreased cardiac reserve when faced with physical stress, impaired balance after long periods of travel. These physiological realities mean we need to approach travel differently than we did in our younger years. Here's how. Build recovery days into your itinerary. Ideally, 1 rest day for every 2 days of active sightseeing. Choose accommodations that minimize stairs and walking distances. Consider cruises or base-centered trips rather than constantly changing locations. Schedule flights that arrive during daylight hours to minimize disorientation. Allow extra time for airport connections. Rushing increases stress and fall risk. Use wheeled luggage and consider services that deliver your bags to your room. Remember, acknowledging these needs isn't surrendering to age. It's smart planning that will actually enable you to enjoy your travels more fully rather than spending half your trip exhausted or ill. 4. Higher risk of falls and injuries. This 4th danger is the one that catches most senior travelers completely off guard, often with devastating consequences. My colleague Doris, a spry 76-year-old retired nurse, thought nothing of the slightly uneven cobblestone streets when she visited a medieval town in Italy. She had navigated similar terrain at home without issue. But combine unfamiliar surroundings, different lighting, jet lag affecting her balance, and new shoes purchased specially for the trip, and disaster struck. One misstep on those charming cobblestones resulted in a broken hip. Instead of enjoying her dream vacation, Doris spent weeks in an Italian hospital, followed by a medically supervised flight home that cost nearly $30,000 and months of rehabilitation. Her independent lifestyle was permanently altered. What haunts me isn't just the physical pain, Doris confided. It's knowing that this was preventable. If I'd been more careful, used a walking stick, worn my broken-in shoes instead of new ones, I might have avoided all of this. The statistics are sobering. 1 in 3 adults over 65 falls each year, and after 70, the risk increases dramatically. When these falls happen in unfamiliar environments, Far from your regular healthcare providers and support system, the consequences can be life-altering. Many popular travel destinations present particular challenges. Ancient sites with uneven steps and no handrails, poorly lit corridors in historic hotels, unfamiliar bathroom configurations with slippery surfaces, public transportation that moves abruptly or requires quick boarding, crowded marketplaces with uneven ground and obstacles to protect yourself. Consider destinations with good accessibility features, especially for longer stays. Use a walking stick or trekking poles, even if you don't regularly use them at home. Pack shoes with excellent grip that are already broken. Request ground floor rooms or ensure reliable elevator access. Carry a small flashlight or use a phone app for additional lighting in dimly lit areas. Never rush to catch public transportation. Another will come along. Most importantly, be honest with yourself about your limitations. I've learned to decline certain activities that I would have eagerly attempted even 5 years ago. This isn't surrendering to age. It's making wise choices that allow me to continue traveling safely for years to come. 5. Financial pitfalls and scams. The final hidden danger combines financial vulnerability with the cognitive changes that can affect even the sharpest minds as we age. Richard, a brilliant retired attorney, prided himself on his financial acumen and awareness. During a trip to Spain, he was approached by a friendly local who warned him about pickpockets targeting tourists in the area. The helpful stranger offered to show Richard how to secure his wallet more safely. In the process, the scammer managed to extract several credit cards without Richard noticing until hours later. By then, thousands of dollars had been charged. His vacation was disrupted with endless phone calls to credit card companies, and his confidence was deeply shaken. "I never thought it could happen to me," Richard admitted. But being in an unfamiliar environment, slightly tired from traveling, and approached by someone who seemed genuinely concerned, my usual defenses weren't operating at full capacity. What Richard experienced reflects something neurologists have confirmed. When we're in unfamiliar environments, especially after the stress of travel, our brain's executive function can be temporarily compromised, regardless of our baseline cognitive abilities. Financial vulnerabilities for senior travelers include targeted scams that specifically prey on older travelers, confusion about foreign currency or exchange rates leading to overpayment, unexpected medical costs not covered by insurance, strict cancellation policies that don't make exceptions for medical issues, digital security risks when using unfamiliar Wi-Fi networks to protect yourself financially. Notify credit card companies before traveling to prevent fraud alerts freezing your cards. Consider special travel cards with limited balances rather than carrying your primary credit cards. Research common scams at your destination before arriving. Purchase travel insurance that specifically covers trip cancellation for medical reasons. Never use public Wi-Fi for banking or sensitive transactions. Consider traveling with a trusted companion who can provide a second perspective in confusing situations. Most importantly, give yourself permission to be suspicious. Many seniors were raised in an era that valued politeness and helping strangers. Scammers exploit these generational values. While most people you encounter while traveling are honest, maintaining a healthy skepticism, especially regarding financial matters, is essential protection. Conclusion. As I've shared these 5 hidden dangers, increased health risks, greater vulnerability to infections, recovery challenges, fall risks, and financial pitfalls, I want to emphasize something crucial. Knowledge is not meant to frighten, but to empower. My collapse in that Greek hotel room taught me that preparation isn't optional for travelers over 70, it's essential. But with the right precautions, traveling in our later years can be not just possible, but profoundly rewarding. Remember these key takeaways. Consult with healthcare providers before traveling and secure proper medical insurance. Build rest days into your itinerary and acknowledge your body's changed recovery needs. Take extra precautions against infections, especially in unfamiliar environments. Be vigilant about fall prevention, even if you're steady at home. Protect yourself financially through awareness and proper planning. Since implementing these lessons, I've safely visited 12 more countries, differently than I would have in my younger years, but with perhaps even greater appreciation for the experiences. If you found this information valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support allows me to continue sharing these crucial insights that mainstream travel advice often overlooks for seniors. Hit the notification bell to be alerted when I release next week's video on the best destinations for travelers over 70. I'd love to hear your experiences too. Have you encountered any of these hidden dangers in your travels? What strategies have worked for you? Share in the comments below. Your wisdom might help fellow travelers avoid the challenges you've faced. Until next time, this is Dr. Bob wishing you safe, healthy, and joyful